controls. Okay, fine. So yeah, there are some of my collaborators named on this slide, which you should have seen before, but okay. So this is the summarized phylogeny of the pit vipers. And the figures on the tree are support values, bootstrap values, which indicate the confidence we have in different parts of the tree. And the figures in red are those which represent very high confidence. So that you can see that most of the clades, which in this representation largely correspond to genera, are well supported, and most of the uncertain areas in the tree are really the relationships between these genera. Here in yellow, I've highlighted a large radiation that used to be called, and some people still prefer to consider it, the genus Trimeresurus. I did split it up in 2004 into the distinct genera that are shown on this slide, but some people prefer to consider these subgenera, as I've said. In this slide, we are going to be treating them as full genera, and hopefully this approach will start to make some sense towards the end of the talk. Here on the right-hand side, we have the same tree, but I've highlighted those clades which are found in the region of interest, which are shown in the map here. The Himalayas, the highest mountains in the world, which stretch across 7 nations. Most of our work has been in India, but we also have samples from Nepal, Myanmar, and the adjacent areas of China. So the green pit vipers are almost exclusively found within the Trimeresurus radiation, as indicated here. So if we next zoom into that part of the tree, I haven't included support values here to, to prevent too many things going on. But the branches are colored according to the support values, and they range from red for no support to dark green for 100% support. And I hope you can make out that most of this tree is in fact green, which suggests that we do have quite high confidence now about the relationships within this radiation. So in terms of the species found within the region of interest, we have a couple of species of Viridivipera, one of which is shown here, the meadow pit viper, which is found in Myanmar and Tibet, as well as in India, and it's confined to the eastern Himalayas. There is another species which is confirmed to occur in northeast India from preserved specimens only. And despite a lot of field work in this region by ourselves and other groups, no one has actually managed to sample a live individual and confirm its identity. The picture here is actually taken in Thailand. One of the problems is that species of Viridivipera look very superficially similar to quite a distantly related group, going the wrong way, oops, Popea popiorum, and this is quite a widely distributed pit viper in northeast India. And we do believe, although this requires DNA confirmation, since most of the records are actually derived just from photographs, we do believe it stretches right across into eastern Nepal. These species are all relatively high elevation species, and another one which appears to be encountered much less frequently is Himalayophis tibetanus, which is restricted to Nepal and Tibet, about which I can say very little. However, the species that seem to come into contact most with people are those that live in the lowlands to mid elevations, and these are almost exclusively members of the Trimeresurus sensu stricto. We believe that there are 3 species currently present in India. Some of these were formerly identified as Trimeresurus albolabris, the white-lipped pit viper, but we now know that that species is actually confined to the more eastern areas and doesn't occur west of central Thailand. So species in the Himalayas include Septentrionalis, the northern white-lipped pit viper, this one here, which occurs from central Nepal westwards. The spot-tailed pit viper, Trimeresurus erythrurus, which occurs mostly in the lowlands throughout northeast India, through Bangladesh, and as far south along the coast of the peninsula as northern Andhra Pradesh. And then a relatively newly described species, Trimerestrus salazar, which is widespread throughout the lowlands. And although published accounts restricted at the moment to Northeast India, we actually know that it's found throughout, well, quite much further west, into eastern Nepal for sure, quite far how west, we're not quite sure yet, and as far south in India, central India, Madhya Pradesh. The clinical picture, because these species are quite difficult to tell apart, is a little complicated because we can't confidently attribute the cases to any particular species. But as I said earlier, it does seem that most of the cases are attributable to the Trimerestrus species. And certainly they present, from what little data we have, a very similar picture of clinical effects, whether they're from Himachal Pradesh and Nepal or from northeastern India. The data I'm presenting here is new data that's come from a community health center in Assam, where they likely have two species, Erythrurus and Salazar. And it's based on 100 cases that have reported to the center over the last 10 years or so. And you can see that the picture is dominated by extreme pain and swelling, although this subsides over 1 or 2 days, and blood coagulation disorders. And in a larger number of cases, the normal blood clotting isn't resolved, isn't regained until 10 days after the bite. And administration of the Indian polyvalent antivenom, which is the only one available, does not resolve this, and neither does administration of blood products such as fresh frozen plasma. With this in mind, we have conducted some studies on the venom of a number of species across the region, as shown here. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to my co-presenter, Shushmita, and we're going to attempt to change our screens. So Shushmita, you can start sharing your screen now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sushmita Thakur. So I'll be starting here. To understand the complexities of crude venoms of green pit vipers of northern and northeastern part of India under study, we performed SGS page profiling and reverse phase chromatographic profiling. Briefly, 20 microgram of crude venom was run on SGS page, and after Kumasi staining, profile was obtained to see 4 to 5 cluster of bands, which was constantly present across all the species, ranging from molecular weight of 15 to 75 kilodalton. Few clusters were seen to be similar in all the species. However, few unique bands were present, which was present only in one species or two. Further, reverse phase chromatography with 2 mg of crude venom shows shows a chromatogram. The comparative chromatogram gives an idea of presence of a very diverse range of proteins with very sharp peaks to very smaller peaks, which along with the SGS page profiles gives an idea of diversity of protein complexes belonging to wide-ranging protein families, snake venom protein families, which might be present in the venom. Further, to understand the pathophysiological effects of crude venoms and to characterize the pharmacological components, in vitro biochemical assays were performed. And as the methodology, the workflow goes like as shown in the figure. Phospholipase A2 activity was estimated in this manner, and the figure shows presence of the PLA2 activity in all the 4 snake venoms. The activity was seen in dose-dependent manner, and with Trimerestrus heptene primarily showing the highest activity. Thrombin-like activity assay was also performed using commercial substrate, which is specific for thrombin. The crude venoms could cleave the substrate, and it was recorded using a spectrophotometer. Trimerestrus erythrurus and Trimerestrus heptene trianalis at higher doses of 10 microgram per ml to 20 gram per ml shows very high thrombin-like activity, which was comparable to 0.5 nanomolar of thrombin control. Again, in the other 2 venom shows very less activity. Coagulation activity assay was also performed in the spectrophotometry manner, and platelet poor plasma was obtained from goat plat, and calcium chloride was added to start the reaction. The figure shows a decrease in clotting time when compared to normal clotting time in all the 4 venoms, giving an idea of procoagulant nature of crude venoms. Trimeresurus erythrurus and Septon trianalis shows sharp decrease in clotting time at 1 microgram per ml and 10 microgram per ml sharply, and it was similar to the Russell's viper. However, literature shows the green pit vipers shows procoagulant in a like pseudo procoagulant manner that we need to assess more. Further, hemolytic activity assay was also performed using RBC obtained from blood, and percentage of hemolysis was calculated considering distilled water hemolysis as 100%. While Rhidovipera meduensis shows highest activity of about 60% at a dose of 20 microgram per ml, and which was again less than the Russell's viper activity. Proteolytic activity assay was performed using 2% fibrinogen. Crude venom was incubated for 1 hour, and aliquot was used to run SDS page. After Kumasi staining, the pattern of band degradation was observed, and it is seen that A alpha band was degraded in all the crude venom samples. However, at higher doses, B beta bands were also degraded. This gives an idea of fibrinogenolytic activity of crude venoms. Viridovipera meduensis shows highest activity as it could cleave the A alpha band at 1 microgram. However, the other 3 venoms did perform this activity at 5 microgram per hour, 5 microgram dose. Immunoreactivity assay was performed to understand the cross reactivity of venom toxins with polyvalent and monovalent antivenom. Firstly, Western blotting was performed, taking primary antibody separately in 1:100 ratio, 1:100 ratio venom and antivenom, and 2 antivenoms were taken: Indian polyvalent antivenom produced by Premium Serum Cell Limited and Green Pit Viper monovalent antivenom raised against Trimeresurus albolabris from Thai Red Cross Society. Blot was developed and compared with SDS page profile, and it is seen from the comparative immunoblot profiles that Green Pit Viper monovalent antivenom could recognize all the bands in the 4 species. However, thank you, ma'am. However, polyvalent antivenom could only recognize all the bands of Trimeresurus erythrurus. Polyvalent antivenom did recognize few bands in all the 3 snakes. However, few bands were completely unrecognized. This was further validated by neutralization activities experiments. Crude venom was mixed with antivenom in 1:100 ratio, incubated at 1 hour, and in vitro enzyme assays were performed as described earlier. The figure shows Green Pit Viper antivenom to completely shows effective neutralization of PLA2 activity of crude venoms in all the 4 species. However, polyvalent antivenom could not neutralize any PLA2 activity of Trimeresurus Septon trianalis, and moderately to effectively neutralize PLA2 activity in other snakes. Inhibition of thrombin-like activity assay was also performed, and Green Pit Viper and monovalent antivenom showed effective to moderate neutralization in all the 4 crude venoms under study, and polyvalent antivenom showed poor neutralization of thrombin-like activity in this venom. Coagulation activity assay was performed, and it was observed that both the polyvalent antivenom did reverse the procoagulant nature of crude venom and increase the clotting time after incubation with venom. Again, similar results were also found when fibrinogenolytic activity was neutralized, and it shows Green Pit Viper to be more potent in neutralizing the toxicity of Green Pit Vipers rather than more than the Indian polyvalent antivenom. Giving an idea of possible homology with venom toxins of Trimeresurus albolabris. So
1 minute.
Overall, it can be concluded that Green Pit Vipers under study shows a diverse protein profile belonging to wide range of protein families, which is seen in terms of many biochemical reactions. Trimeresurus species of the Trimeresurus radiation shows more toxic potency compared to Viridovipera meduensis and Popaya popeorum. And green pit viper antivenom shows better neutralization efficacy compared to Indian polyvalent antivenom. However, in most cases, these bites are treated with symptomatic treatment. But in severe cases, if antivenom is required, then polyvalent antivenom will be of very less efficiency. So thank you for listening.